So how does a bill become a law? Well, a bill, in fact, is the name of a proposed law. It's called a bill until it gets passed or until it dies, and it's nothing. Anyone can draft a bill, but only members of Congress can introduce them. There are more rules regarding bills in the House than in the Senate, and we'll look at those. And party leaders are critical here in guiding bills through the houses. Primarily the majority party, because they decide what bills get voted on and when. And there's all kinds of pressure on the legislatures, be it from interest groups and lobbying, be it from other members of the party, be it from, of course, the public, the media. They're always putting pressure on these on people to get what they want. So a bill gets introduced, either into the House or the Senate, and then the who's ever in charge, the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority Leader, will assign that bill to a committee. Now, that's not as simple as it seems, because you could assign a bill to a friendly committee, or you could assign a bill to a committee you know that will kill it. And so, right away, the who's ever in charge of that branch or that house has some control over the success or failure of that bill. The committee will then assign it to a subcommittee, and then it will be read and marked up, and there might be hearings on it, testimony may be heard. And the subcommittee will either report it to the committee or it will die in subcommittee. Most bills are going to die in subcommittee. Once it gets to the committee, it'll go through all that again. It'll be read and marked up and changed and amended and all that stuff. And most bills that make it to committee will die there. But some bills will be reported out of committee. And then they'll go to the Rules Committee in the House. In the Senate, they'll go to the floor. The Rules Committee in the House, which is controlled by the Speaker, will put a rule on the bill. The rule on the bill will determine things like when, and this is only the House, when will it be voted on, how long will each House member have to speak on it, how many amendments can be put on the bill, how many amendments can be put on the bill by each side, and all the rules about how the bill will be treated. Then, if its turn ever comes up in the full House, and it very well may not, it will be voted on by the House after being discussed, again, with each House member having their time limited. Any amendments or changes to the bill can be made, and then the bill will either pass or not pass the House. If it fails to pass the House, it dies. If it passes the House, that same exact version of the bill has to be passed by the Senate. If it's not the same version, if a different version passes the Senate, it has to go to conference committee and then back to the House and the Senate to be passed in its new form. The Senate works the same way, except that senators can put any amendment they want on the bill. Remember, House members can only put germane or relevant amendments on the bill. And senators can speak as long as they want about how they feel about the bill. Senators also have the ability to put a hold on a bill, which is basically one person just killing the bill, although there's usually a political price to pay for this. Once the same version of the bill passes both the House and the Senate, it goes to the President's desk, and when we get to the President, or maybe we'll talk about that here, we'll see. The President can either sign the bill, veto the bill, in which case it goes back to the House and the Senate and has to be passed with a 2/3 majority, or the President can not sign the bill. If it's within 10 days, if it's not within 10 days of the end of session, the bill dies if the President doesn't sign it. I'm sorry, excuse me. If it's not within 10 days of the end of the session, the bill becomes law without the President's signature. But if it is within 10 days of the end of session, the bill dies because it can't go back. We'll explain that when we get to the executive, but that's called a pocket veto. The President obviously attempts to persuade Congress to get the Congress to do what they want. Now, so many things in our country that we blame on the President are actually done by Congress, and the President has very little control over them. But the President does have a lot of ways to influence Congress. We'll talk about those when we get to the executive. Ultimately, presidential leadership of Congress is only at the margins. Some presidents have been very, very, very good at making Congress do what they want. LBJ comes to mind, FDR, have been incredibly good at controlling Congress. Other presidents have had more of a hands-off approach. Barack Obama, for example, has largely let Congress do what it's going to do, even when the Congress was friendly to him in his first 2 years in office. Jimmy Carter was also kind of famously unwilling and unable to force Congress to do what he wanted.